So welcome back to Third Age Reforged and to another battle replay, and actually once again we're going to be on the Mountain Pass. And I know that I did show this map very recently, but someone did ask in the comments for a free-for-all, to do a few more free-for-alls at any rate, and this is one that I do have in the pipeline. And a free-for-all on the Mountain Pass does sound like a rather interesting idea, purely because it's not really an open field, so it might not work out in quite the same way. And positioning is going to be key here. Just committing forward everything might end up losing you the match very, very quickly, but being a little bit more savvy with your placement will possibly lead to some better results here. And also we're going to be seeing Gondor, and I know that also in the comments recently there has been noted a bit of a lack of Gondor. Gondor should be far stronger actually in 0.97, at least in theory, with the buffs to infantry being made a little bit more important, spearmen in particular being made a little bit more potent against cavalry should really benefit Gondor a lot. And this one was sent to me by RH0 as well. It is also worth saying that over the course of the next week there might be a little bit less content, purely because, you know, it is the lead up to the submission of this semester's project. So, you know, bearing that in mind, there may be a few gaps here and there, but there will still be videos, and obviously past that it essentially runs into the summer break, so I'll be free to make as many videos as I'm able to in the time given. So anyway, we'll start off with Zero's army composition. He's playing as Gondor. Of all of the positions to start off in, he maybe drew the short straw a little bit. He could have deployed up in the hills, but he has resisted the temptation to do that, and he is going to be marching directly towards an army that is right in front of him. His front line is a combination of Guards of Osgiliath and upgraded, fully upgraded actually, with 2 levels of armour upgrades, the Gondor Spearmen. So this is a fairly durable front line. You know, the Guards of Osgiliath have got better armour values than most pikemen. They're stronger than most sort of standard pikemen as well. Rather like the Franadine pikemen from Rudour, they punch a little bit above their weight in terms of their pricing, but there is a very limited amount you can have of them before the red limit starts to come into play. So obviously Gondor very much infantry focused, and in terms of an attrition based conflict, they can certainly put up a real fight, especially with their infantry. Fully upgraded Gondor infantry, there's some Care Andros marksmen here as well, so a real focus around armour throughout the entirety of the Gondor roster, just to make them that much more durable, both in melee and at range. Axemen of Lasarnak here as well, of course, nice AP. One of the few AP options that Gondor actually, well, I say few, one of the few dedicated AP options, because most of Gondor's AP, rather counterintuitively, does actually come from their spearmen. The Citadel Guard and the Fountain Guard. Sin is going crazy logging in and out of Medieval 2. I wonder what on earth he's doing. Nimlothian Honor Guard, another source of AP for Gondor, of course. Again, spears, probably the most efficient of all of the bodyguard units that Gondor have available to them. Gandalf's Retinue Bodyguard, one of the most durable Lancer units in the game, but they are not knights. They are not designed for horse-to-horse combat, but they do still have a very heavy and very potent charge, in addition to being very, very durable. And then back here, some more Guards of Osgiliath and Gondor infantry, and up here, some more Gondor archers, fully upgraded, some Veterans of Osgiliath, also upgraded, and some standard Gondor archers with just the first level of armour upgrade. So Gondor are going to be facing off today against a faction who has placed themselves in the trees, actually Arthedain, played by XMR-TOTT. So Arthedain and Gondor match up rather interestingly with one another. Normally I would give the advantage to Arthedain, just because their cavalry is notably stronger than Gondor's. I would say that Gondor have got the stronger archer and certainly infantry corps than Arthedain, but the more open the map is, you know, the more effective Arthedain's very strong cavalry force is going to be. On the Mountain Pass, however, that would probably not, and well, will probably not be the case. I would imagine that Gondor's infantry and their durability might come into play a little bit more so here, but Arthedain's positioning is a little bit better than Gondor's, so we shall see. Unupgraded Arthedain marksmen, so they will lose if they go toe-to-toe with the upgraded Gondor archers, but still very similar sorts of units. A catapult, which, considering the choke points that Mountain Pass has, a fairly reliable pick. You know, you're relying on the enemy not having any ballistae, but I would say that Gondor, it's probably pretty likely that they won't. A couple of Evendim archers, so again just basic cheap archers, some upgraded Arthedain pikemen. Even with the upgrades they will still be inferior to the Guards of Osgiliath, but it's possible to bring them in greater numbers than the Guards of Osgiliath, which it does look as though that is what Arthedain has done. Some more marksmen, some fully upgraded Arthedain men-at-arms as well, so this will allow them to contest the infantry fight with Gondor a little bit more so. So this puts them on the same sort of level as the fully upgraded Gondor infantry. And then back here, a very large force of Arthedain men-at-arms, actually an interesting pick as well, because it's sort of playing into Gondor's hands a little bit perhaps. A Numinous Gate Guards, a pikeman of which will be able to defeat the Guards of Osgiliath 1-to-1, some dismounted Fornost Arraign Knights as well. And that's pretty much it that we can see from Arthedain. So over here there's likely to be another fight in probably this choke point here, as often happens on the mountain pass, although we can see that the Realm of Lothlorien have got their army in a big old blob. Ailamau, he's got some Ethel Tirith and Maethit Ilaz Gallen, Karas Galadhon's Guardians, which is unsurprising on this map, a lot of Sylvan Spears, looking very similar to one another in that big blob. There's also some Galadhrim Nobles in there, so more of a quality-focused approach. Well, actually, no, they've got a lot of Ethel Tirith and the Sylvan Spears, so I would suggest there's probably a lot of hidden units from Lothlorien around here somewhere. Man, Sin is really going crazy signing in and out of Medieval 2. And then we have an Elven showdown, actually. So we technically have Gondor and Arthedain, two quite similar factions going off against one another, two of the Western Kingdoms of Men. And then both of the Sylvan Elf factions facing off against one another as well. We have Arsal Ali, who is going to be playing as the Realm of Mirkwood. So he's got some Thandrimi Erin here on the front line. He also has a catapult, so he is perhaps seen at the mountain pass. Obviously, a lot of choke points. The catapult could be very useful there. A couple of units of Hiri Ek here as well. Hiri Alth. Some Hiri Lang. Usually I'd say that Lothlorien have the melee advantage, but based on the composition Lothlorien have brought, I don't think that's the case. I think Mirkwood have invested much more in their infantry, including the mighty Palace Guard, the Yarithalion, the Inanwaith, and then also some Maethit Ilaz Gallen, obviously a unit that is shared between both Mirkwood and Lothlorien, so could be a pretty brutal and bloody fight in the choke point, which Lothlorien's Karas Galadhon's Guardians could win that fight for them all on their lonesome, but Mirkwood have certainly brought a lot of heavy hitting infantry as well. So, without further ado, let's begin. 22,000 frames is a fairly long fight as well, and I would imagine down here Gondor are not going to be too eager to march on into Arthedain's position. There's actually some civilians down in this gap over here as well. Based upon Arthedain's overall army structure here, I would suggest they've got quite a few hidden units, which of course Arthedain do have quite a lot of Dunedain units which can hide. The Grey Company on horseback, the Rangers on foot, the Troll Slayers also on foot, of course, with those javelins, which could be very, very handy against Gondor, both at range and in melee with those battle axes. But I would suggest that the first engagements are probably going to be between Lothlorien and Mirkwood as the Thandrimi Erin charge forward, trying to occupy the choke point. Those Maethit Ilaz Gallen, however, are already in position, and they will be able to get a few javelin volleys off into Mirkwood. None of Mirkwood's units really have a huge armour value. The units of the class, like the Hiri Ek, the Hiri Lang, with that classic Mirkwood armour, do have slightly higher values than the rest of the Mirkwood army, but even then, they're not overly strong in terms of their armour value. Their skill is what really sets them apart. Lothlorien traditionally have got the higher armour values, but here you can see the Galadhrim Nobles not even using their ammunition just yet. They are charging right forward, and they will butcher Thandrimi Erin in melee. Usually the elves can count on having a pretty decent advantage in melee with even their lower tier units, but when it's elf versus elf, it can be a case of utilising your quality quickly to really cut down on the limited numbers that your opponents have. And you can see the Sindar Archers and the Galadhrim Nobles being used first and foremost actually as infantry rather than archers, which they are overall, aside from the Karas Galadhon's Guardians, the strongest infantry units that Lothlorien can field, so I'm not too surprised about that. And Arsal Ali is now sending forward reinforcements, which are sorely needed, because these Thandrimi Erin are getting butchered as Lothlorien come forward in a very aggressive fashion, which I'm actually pleased about, because I was thinking that Lothlorien were going to sort of hide in the corner and be a little bit more of a touchy-feely approach going on here, but no, they've gone right in with pretty much everything. And with those elites, the Staff Masters, the Sylvan Spears, they've already killed off a huge portion of the Thandrimi Erin. But Mirkwood will at least be able to hold. With these more elite units, the Hiri Ek and the Hiri Alth, moving forward to shore up the front line, they should be okay for the time being. But with those Karas Galadhon's Guardians as well, Lothlorien have gone all in here. And it's going to be up to Mirkwood to try and affect the fight through other means, and I would say the Maethit Ilaz Gallen are going to be one of the best ways they can do that. The Thurney Tower don't really have the best of shots. If you look here, they're sort of down on a slope. It's not the easiest shot, they're having to arc it, so they're not going to be able to do huge damage. It will still add up, of course, but the Maethit Ilaz Gallen are going to have to be the ones to really do the damage, especially against something like the Karas Galadhon's Guardians. And as soon as perhaps the damage starts being done to Lothlorien's infantry, then more units like the more attack-focused infantry units like the Hiri Lang and the Palace Guard can move forward to really do some damage to the remains. Because after all, using the Galadhrim Nobles and the Sindar Archers quickly does mean that if you kill them off, they're not going to be able to utilise any of their ammunition either. But Lothlorien do have a fair amount of archers back here as well, including the Sylvan Rangers, although these Rangers don't have the best angle to shoot either, so a lot of that body piercing potential is going to waste here. Because it does look as though they're actually shooting into the Thurney Tower. We shall see how that continues. We actually see the Gandalf's retinue bodyguard did charge forward here and did get a charge off into the archers of Arthedain, and the pikemen were not nearby, which is not too surprising. All of the Gondorian archers are nearby. The Gondor archers would be able to very quickly start to work away on the Arthedain pikemen. Even with their breastplates, you know, the Arthedain pikemen are still not going to stand up too long in a skirmish fight. And you can actually see here, with that charge carving into the Arthedain archer line, this should give Gondor peace of mind here that they are going about this in the right way. They're going forward and they're trying to skirmish. Gondor do fit this style of warfare a little bit better than Arthedain as well, I must say. It's something that Arthedain can definitely do, particularly with their low tier Evendim archers, but Gondor overall fit this style of warfare a little bit better. The slow approach, wearing the enemy down through attrition in a choke point with their heavily armoured archers and infantry. We will head back up there in just a second though, but yeah, Gondor will probably be pretty happy that this is how the engagement is going so far. They certainly can't afford to charge forward, otherwise that catapult is going to do huge amounts of damage. But Haldir, in a very lore-friendly fashion, getting killed. This is a huge amount of damage being done by this Mirkwood catapult though, and just like the Maetha Ilaz Galan on the other side, which we did actually see firing, the Delupang Em and Weir are in place as well. So while the Lothlorien player initially was having quite a lot of joy coming forward in such an aggressive manner, it's certainly being turned around now. The javelins and the catapult doing a lot of damage, perhaps a little bit of friendly fire as well, but Galatharim nobles, Sindar archers taking a lot of damage. They're still standing though. And Mirkwood, they're certainly not getting away with this for free. A lot of their decent quality infantry here is being killed. But both Lothlorien and Mirkwood slaughtering each other pretty quickly, actually, all things considered. That's a good shot, though. Honestly, that's what the catapult needs to aim for. The catapult needs to go after the Caras Galadhon's Guardians. If they can do that, there's nothing Lothlorien will be able to do. The Hiri Lang are going to come forward, but they're getting a lot of friendly fire here as well, Mirkwood. And they've actually gotten so much friendly fire that Lothlorien are now going to be able to pour forwards into the back lines. Lothlorien will lose this engagement in the long run, I'm sure, but it's a good thing these Hiri Lang were here to sort of block the advance. There go the Sylvan Spears as well, so some of the lower tier Lothlorien units are now routing off. Even the Galatharim nobles. Goes to show how catastrophic an effect enemy artillery can have on morale. Although the catapult crew are now abandoning the artillery piece. Perhaps they feel as though they've done enough damage, which to be honest I think they have. Especially with the Delupang Em and Weir here, they've got a straight shot into the Caras Galadhon's Guardians, and they're going to be able to rip them asunder. Very nicely done indeed. Arsal Ali with the good plays. You can see here the Gandalf's Retinue Bodyguard charging headlong once again into the Arthedain archer lines, but this is exactly the sort of thing which the Gandalf's Retinue Bodyguard is going to be very good at. They have very good armor values, they have very strong shield values, and they have multiple HP. I would say actually in terms of absorbing arrow fire, they're probably the best multiple HP Lancer unit in the game, because it's exactly the sort of thing that Gondor are good at. Armour, shields, really absorbing that range pressure nicely. And when there isn't any sort of enemy cavalry, any enemy high tier cavalry to really bog down the Gandalf's Retinue Bodyguard, they're ideal in a situation like this, especially where the Arthedain pikemen are being kept at arm's length by the Gondorian archers. Very nice synergy going on between the Gondorian ranks here. The dismounted Fornos Rain Knights, and you can see here when a sort of more expensive unit that doesn't have a shield gets anywhere near the front line, immediately the Gondorians focus their attention on it, and the Fornos Rain Knights taking a couple of losses here. Not too bad though. You know, armour is not something which Arthedain are wanting for the most part throughout their army. The Grey Company are here, unsurprisingly, obviously Arthedain with them being hidden, but they really want to stay clear of the Gondorian archer lines because they will get torn apart. The ideal target to go after, Rangers, whether mounted or dismounted. You really want to be dealing with them with your own archers as best you are able. You can see here though what a slaughter it's been. It's a slaughter which Lothlorien, however, have been on the wrong side of largely. The Ethel Tirith is still firing away. Maetha Ilaz Galan are in the back lines now, but there really isn't much left in terms of Lothlorien infantry. There are still a few Sindar archers, 25 of them, that's more than a few. But yeah, I mean, Mirkwood did have the quality of infantry to move forward, which was able to hold Lothlorien in place, while the catapult, the javelins and the rangers have all done the business. Here come the Thurny Tower as well. But it has taken its toll on Mirkwood. I mean, it's obviously been a much more catastrophic engagement for Lothlorien so far, especially now. You can see the Maetha Ilaz Galan from Mirkwood moving forward to engage the Lothlorien variant. The Sylvan Rangers are also here. The civilians from Arthedain are on the way forward. The Sindar Blade Masters as well. So they did have a few hidden units, Lothlorien, which they were keeping in the back pocket, but I don't think that's going to matter too much anymore because the engagement has gone so poorly for them that Mirkwood should have victory up here at the summit of this particular mountain. There go the Sindar archers routing as well. Mirkwood probably need to support their units forward here though if they want to actually make this attack stick. I mean the Thurney Tower I think are stronger in melee, just about than the Ethel Tirith. But if they really want to make this stick, I mean the Sindar Blade Masters are on the way up now. They're going to need something a little bit more potent. Hiriak, they still have the Hiri Lung, I'm pretty sure. You can see here that the Gandalf's Retinue Bodyguard are on their way up the hill as well. But they want to really be careful. If they run afoul of the Palace Guard, they'll get ripped to shreds. And actually, it does look as though Gondor, they've had enough of engaging Arthedain. Interestingly enough, and it looks as though Gondor and Arthedain, perhaps this is a bit of a result of the politics which can play out during a free-for-all. Because Gondor and Arthedain, bit of a ceasefire over here, and it looks as though they're going to sandwich what's left of the elves between the two of them. Which is a wise move, honestly. Because Mirkwood are marooned up here on this hill. They do have one escape route, I think, which is over here, which if I saw this happening, if I were Mirkwood, I would absolutely take that. You know, because over there, you're painting yourself into a corner. Over here, I think there's a way down. Or at least there's a way around, so you can go sort of right the way up here. Yeah, there is. Well, I say that. That is technically a dead end, but this is actually a portion of the map we've never seen before, really. But that would be what I would do, just put as much distance between myself and the Arthedain and Gondorian armies as possible, because that's clearly what they want to do here. Both the Arthedain and Gondorian forces trying to catch the elves between them. Lothlorien need to decide what they're going to do as well, because I think the elves are not blind to this. They have seen what's happening, I think. But they're still going to fight one another, I think. The Thurney Tower are moving forward, I think, to try and kill off some more Lothlorien forces. Indeed they are, but this is more of a rear guard than anything else. I think they're trying to save their catapult, and so they're going to throw a unit of Thurney Tower under the bus, because the Sindar Blade Masters are not going to be able to defeat. Well, they are going to absolutely overturn the Thurney Tower in melee. In fact, you can already see they're probably going to break very, very quickly. Sindar Blade Masters, of course. They do fall into the category of heavy swordsmen, I suppose, alongside something like the Lothlorien Blade Masters. They can hide, but they're not quite as durable as the Lothlorien Swordmasters. Perhaps the Mithlon Swordmasters would be a better comparison. The Palace Guard, however, are still fully healthy. I'm going to be interested to see what Lothlorien do here, because if they go after Mirkwood, all they're going to really achieve is just sort of ensuring that neither one of the two elven armies is going to win this fight. As the Gondorians sort of mass their forces together ready to advance up the hill. Arthedain undoubtedly are going to do the same, but it does look as though Lothlorien, perhaps in revenge for the grievous losses they suffered at the hands of the catapult and the javelins, looks maybe Lothlorien are going to weaken Mirkwood and they're going to have that be their dying action. Some Hiriaut are also escaping though, Hiriak. Thurney Tower shooting into the Sindar Blade Masters. The Sindar Blade Masters do not have a very high armor value at all, so archers are certainly one way in which you can cut away at their power quite quickly. But you have the Hiri Lang over there as well. So yep, the elves very eager to sort of finish one another off, it seems. Lothlorien has made their choice, so one of the two human factions will undoubtedly be winning this battle today. Arrowfire still. I mean, the Sylvan Rangers are still alive, but they're so depleted at this point. The Sindar Blade Masters actually heading around. You can see the Gondorians on their way up the hill. So we have a look down here. Arthedain also making their way up the hill, so almost a perfectly coordinated pincer attack on the elven position at the top of the mountain. It is wise from the two human factions to do this, however, because if they really ground each other down in the same manner that the elves have done, the elves have got the superior position here. They've got the Palace Guard as well. They would have won, I feel. But as it is, they have managed to change things around somewhat. Here come the Hiri Lang, charging in to try and deal with the Sindar Blade Masters, which they should be able to. I would back the Hiri Lang in that fight, to be honest with you. Although over here on the front line, they're having to deal with Galathran nobles as well, and their position is compromised. They're having their line wrapped up, which is not great for them. But the silver lining for Mirkwood is when Gondor and Arthedain do hit the summit of the hill, they will hit one another and Lothlorien first, so perhaps it was a good idea to come over here from Arsal after all. I would still argue that this road would have been better because it would have offered you that that cliff that you could use for your archers. Also, the catapult would have been in a better position to be used over there, but at the very least he didn't just stand here and continue to grind himself against Lothlorien. Meanwhile, down here on the this little pathway down here, which this is another sort of section of the map we've never really seen used before. Maitha Ilaz Gallen. The Ethel Tirith are moving forward again. More of a way to, I think, chip away at Mirkwood's manpower, but here we are. They're going to very, very easily beat Ethel Tirith in melee. Meanwhile, yep, Arthedain and Gondor, the temporary ceasefire is off. Civilians are wavering in the face of the mighty Gondorian cavalrymen and the guards of Osgiliath with their pikes down. More infantry coming forward as well, so all they really changed about this engagement was where it was going to take place. And ultimately I think this will probably favour Gondor. Again, in an infantry capacity I always think it will favour Gondor when I look at them next to Arthedain because they just have more options. But certainly, with the Grey Company here, undoubtedly with some Dunedain as well. The Troll Slayers in particular are a very good unit to bring against Gondor, AP at range and in melee. Provided you can keep them out of the line of fire of those Gondorian archers. The Thalioni Nanwe taking a few point-blank volleys from the Maitha Ilaz Gallen, but the Palace Guard moving forward, the Athalioni Nanwe, that will be enough to kill off the Galathram nobles as well. Again, this is one of the strongest infantry units in the game, the Athalioni Nanwe. There are very few units which can defeat them one-on-one. And they're still at full strength, whereas the Lothlorien army is most certainly on its last legs. Arthedain have actually been the ones to sort of conquer this crossroads here as well, so Gondor will have to go through Arthedain if they want to get at the Elven position. But this does mean that Arthedain will find themselves in the middle of Mirkwood and Gondor, although I would imagine Mirkwood will wait to engage. With how heavily depleted they are, they certainly don't want to poke the Hornet's Nest too much and turn too much of Arthedain's strength onto them. The Delupeng Yemendouia are here, and that rhymes, but yeah, there goes Lothlorien. So Lothlorien have been defeated, Mirkwood very much on their last legs, but if they can avoid provoking Arthedain too much, they may still have a chance here. But you can see that the Gondorian front line has moved forward, very nicely organised, a combination of upgraded infantry and the Guards of Osgiliath, and if Arthedain are intent on just using their civilians, they're not going to make much progress here. Like I said, attrition-based warfare like this is something Gondor can very much engage in, more so, I would say, than Arthedain. But this is going to be a pike-to-pike engagement, Arthedain coming forward with their own pikemen, so it's going to be a very slow front line, this, but you can see the Gondorian archers trying to fight as much as they can. They do have a decent shot, actually, at least some of them. It's a bit difficult terrain to set up all of their archers in good positions. Those Caerandros marksmen have got the higher ground, and they are going to have basically free reign to shoot into those Arthedain pikemen, so a combination of that, superior infantry units and good positions for their archers to support their infantry units, I would say that Gondor should come out of this engagement on top fairly comfortably. And with that in mind, Arthedain need to rethink moving closer towards Mirkwood because they cannot afford to sort of siphon off resources to go after stuff like the Palace Guard, the Catapult and the Maitha Ilaz Gallen. When they already have their hands full with Gondor, they need to sort of reposition themselves a little bit here. I think they need to actually allow Gondor to come forwards a little bit and maybe try and defend this choke point and maybe coax Mirkwood into an engagement with Gondor as well. Positioning is everything really. On a normal game of Mountain Pass that is the case, but especially in a free-for-all, because you could be leaving yourself vulnerable on multiple fronts, whereas in a normal game sort of between two teams you can kind of predict how the attacks are going to go. In a situation like this it's much more difficult. You need to be a little bit more savvy with your positioning. Arthedain men-at-arms going forward, the upgraded Gondor spearmen pushing forward in a big clump, but still I feel as though the positioning here is what's really going to cause problems for Arthedain. Especially seeing as most of what's being hit with arrow fire are those pikemen. Very, very vulnerable, a lot of kills available for Gondor, and the Arthedain archers, by contrast, don't have an ideal position to shoot into the lines. And now the Axemen of Lasarnak are coming forward. All of the mainline Arthedain units that are on the field today are very heavily based around their armour, and the Axemen of Lasarnak are perfectly poised to deal with that. The Fountain Guard also. AP of course, but that Mirkwood Catapult doing a lot of damage there to the Gondor infantry, and that will tip the balance of this fight on this flank anyway towards Arthedain. I think actually, as we see, I think Mirkwood and Arthedain have come to a bit of an understanding that maybe we team up on Gondor and then worry about each other later. But I still feel as though Arthedain are really going to struggle in this engagement. They need to get some of their heavy-hitting units forward if they have them. Having a little look back here, they do have those Innuminous Gate Guards. They do have some units in reserve. Maybe this is planning for the future. Sort of when all is said and done, these are the units we're going to use to kill off Mirkwood, which is possible. Arthedain men-at-arms are here. Very, very similar armour styles in many ways, and colour schemes from both Gondor and Arthedain, as you would expect. Still, I think that positioning from those archers and the position that they are in is key from Gondor here. And they need to use them efficiently, because if they don't, they will still be ground down by a combination of the Mirkwood forces and Arthedain forces. More Arthedain infantry on their way forwards. Eminem archers doing their best to try and kill units off, but they're going after the Gondor skirmishers, whereas the Gondorians, they are shooting into the Arthedain infantry, which is going to give more and more, I think, the advantage to Gondor. But over here on the side where they were hit by the catapult, this unit of Gondor infantry is actually being overwhelmed by a lot of Arthedain men-at-arms. Elsewhere, though, we can see that there are Fountain Guard on the front line, Gondor infantry, and it is a big old mess here. But the superior quality of the Gondor infantrymen in several places, I think, should be enough to see them through, although I don't know. These Axemen of Lasarnak, well, yeah, victory seems like a certainty. The AP should be enough to do a lot of damage. The Axemen of Lasarnak perhaps give the impression that they're more elite than they are when they've got their armour fully upgraded, but they are still a very good AP tool, even if you don't expect shock infantry like that to survive the length of the match. Also something worth considering, Gondor have brought their slightly more expensive archers today. And the Caerandros marksmen are pretty damn good in melee, as are the veterans of Osgiliath. But Mirkwood, betrayal. The Mirkwood catapult shooting right into the back there of the Arthedain line, causing a big rout. But that, I think, is going to also cause the breakdown of that temporary alliance, as the Arthedain archers are almost certainly just going to turn around and start showering Mirkwood in arrows. And Mirkwood don't have the manpower to stand up to that for too long, even when it's just Arthedain marksmen and Eminem archers. Some Gondor archers here on this side as well, trying to shore up this side, where Arthedain have held up a little bit better. Here come the Gondor archers, the Gondor spearmen, more reinforcements being committed forward. Another unit of pikes on the way forward, and those reserves, which perhaps they were hoping to use against Mirkwood later, are having to be committed forward now. Mirkwood's betrayal perhaps facilitating that, as the centre of their line seems to be really struggling under the weight of Caerandros marksmen are now being committed forward. But really the Fountain Guard, the Guards of Osgiliath, the Gondor phalanx, much stronger than the Arthedain one in this battle. And combine that with all the very durable shielded infantry as well. It's a tough task for Arthedain to go blow for blow with Gondor in something which they're very much focused around as a faction. Even in 0.96, where I think Gondor may be a little bit lackluster. Like, yeah, they can wall off and sort of nuke box, as it were, with the very best of them, but options-wise, Arthedain is certainly the more well-rounded faction in 0.96, but here, the battleground, the positioning has favoured Gondor so far. Meanwhile, the Grey Company have moved forward into those Thurney Tower, but they're about to find themselves on the wrong side of the Palace Guard, and the Palace Guard will butcher cavalry and melee very, very quickly. Gondor archers not really pulling their weight in melee, as you would maybe expect. Fornoster Rain Knights coming over here to try and press home an advantage on the one flank, where it looks as though Arthedain are actually pushing Gondor back, and the Fornoster Rain Knights, obviously with their skill, those nice bastard swords that they have, doing so. Also in the middle, they seem to have stabilised things temporarily, but that won't last too much longer. I mean, with the Fountain Guard here, the Fornoster Rain Knights, if they're going to fight the Fountain Guard, they need to make sure that they're not sort of facing the phalanx head-on, which unfortunately for Arthedain is exactly what's happening here. There's also the Nimlothian Honour Guard over on this side of things, again with the AP. The Numinous Gate Guards are also moving into place to try and shore things up, but I just think over the long haul, Gondor have the advantage in this fight. Now the Athelian Rangers are getting into position. The veterans of Osgiliath also firing away. Of course, the faction this favours most of all is Mirkwood, because it does give them the chance that maybe they can make something happen here in the later game, but unfortunately for Mirkwood, their betrayal by shooting their catapult into the back of Arthedain does mean that Arthedain is probably not going to be too keen to launch that alliance once again, so they're just going to be shooting into Mirkwood here. Defeat seems like a distinct possibility here on the front line for Gondor. That does surprise me, I must admit, with the Fountain Guard right there. Fornos Terrain Knights are fresher, I suppose, but I can't help but feel like over the long haul, the AP that Gondor have available there should be enough to see them over the line.
Only half our force remains.
Veterans of Osgiliath being committed forward to melee. It is whereas Gandalf's retinue bodyguard over here as well, but they're chasing the Grey Company off. They're routing and broken. The Athelian Rangers need to get up on that hill, I think, because then they would have a very nice shooting position. How well the Gondorians use the Athelian Rangers could decide whether they win or not, because even if they do win this engagement, I mean, Arthedain have got their catapult forward now. This could be the end of Gondor if they're not careful. Catapult could be a real game changer. But if they can use those Athenian Rangers to good effect, those Illuminous Gate Guards would evaporate very, very quickly. Those are routing men-at-arms, however, and when a unit that size is routing, it's a bad sign for the health of your front line. Veterans of Osgiliath are being committed forward to melee now as well. And they are, I think, stronger actually than fully upgraded Gondor infantry in melee as well, so it gives an idea of the calibre of units which are being sent forward. But doesn't matter how elite the unit is, if it takes a direct hit from a catapult, they're getting fried. And it's not looking good here for Gondor. The longer that sort of flat infantry engagement lasted, the more likely it was they would win, but, well, there goes the Arthedain general. Arthedain need to be careful here, because with the loss of their general, if they get a hefty volley of friendly fire, they could find themselves routing themselves, but you can see here that the Gondorians also looking very much like they're wavering. Forward come the Athalioni Nanwe. There was a bit of a drop in frames there. I wonder if that was Rangers doing that. The Delupeng, Yem and Dwyer are firing, and they are firing into that big old blob at the back, and they're actually helping Gondor out by shooting into that Arthedain blob, because that's where the Illuminous Gate Guards are living. The Athelian Rangers come forward to try and shore up the line as well. So Gondor are pretty much all in at this stage, and I think this is the Arthedain line collapsing. And I think, more than anything, that comes down to Mirkwood using their Delupeng to shoot right into the biggest blob that Arthedain had left. And I think that's going to be the end for Arthedain. I don't think they're going to have the strength to cope now, especially not that they're being attacked from multiple angles. The Palace Guard, the Athalioni Nanwe moving forward, carving their way through the archers. From a Mirkwood perspective, they now need to hope that Arthedain can at the very least take a lot of the Gondorians with them, because Gondor still have enough strength to beat Mirkwood. Well, with the Mirkwood catapult, if they get a few decent volleys, that could turn around. Gondor are very tightly packed together as it stands, but good volleys are needed. Decent hit, but they need more than decent at this point, I think. There goes the Gondorian general, though. That's a good start to seeing whether Mirkwood can turn this around. Look at all of that. There's a lot of routing units. Some of them have returned, but Arthedain should absolutely take this opportunity to try and sequester some units away in the corner. But now Gondor are going to begin their march on Mirkwood, and with this amount of strength left, I don't think Mirkwood are going to have too much in response to that. The Delupeng are hiding, but they're going to need this catapult to do a huge amount of damage. Even with the Palace Guard, because it's really just the Palace Guard at this point. I do have some Maith Ilaz Gallen, but decent hit again, but it's again on spears. Stuff like the Fountain Guard are still alive. Guards of Osgiliath, pikes and phalanx units in general is something which can be used to devastating effect against Mirkwood if they run out of ammunition with which to shoot them. Here come the Palace Guard. Veterans of Osgiliath moving in, serving Gondor proudly. The Nimlothian Honour Guard still pretty healthy. Goes to show how tough they are. They were on the front line in the thickest fighting against Arthedain for quite a long time, and still healthy, although not so healthy anymore. They need to hurry up and get into melee. The longer they're sticking out like that, the easier time that those catapults will have shooting them. Gandalf's retinue bodyguard now cycling back out. We are at the business end of this fight now. Guards of Osgiliath moving forward. The regrouped Arthedain forces, albeit it's not much. Just a few Evendim archers and Arthedain marksmen, really. The Illuminous Gate Guards also, although, when I say that, Arthedain men-at-arms are waiting in reserve here. Gondor need to try and push through. I mean, that catapult is in an ideal position, really, to get huge damage done, but it does need to be quick. the longer this engagement takes. I mean, the Palace Guard are extremely powerful in terms of a single unit, the strongest that was on the field today. But there are only so many of them. Here come the Guards of Osgiliath as well. Arthedain once again getting ready to move forward, I think. Again, grazing hits at best. They need to get a direct hit. Gandalf's retinue bodyguard are trying to force their way through. Forcing their way through Palace Guard is bold indeed, but the real prize is the catapult. Yeah, the Maith Ilazgalan are having to defend the catapult rather than get on the front line where they could be sorely needed. That was a good shot, however. They did get some friendly fire, but right into the guts of this Gondor attack, and that's enough to send a huge amount of the Gondorian force routing. Could be turning it around here. Can Mirkwood pull this out of the bag? I hope so, because I've been quite critical of Arsal in the past. Not through any fault of him, but all of the battles I've seen with him in it lately seem to have been him on the wrong end of things. But he's done very well in this fight, actually. To be fair, a lot of the time, you know, the enemies that he's been facing have charged right into him and he's had to sort of react to that, but he's done very well at that. Catapult getting ready to shoot a volley once more. Yeah, the Gondorians are routing and the Gondorians are not going to win this anymore. The Palace Guard are simply too strong, the Nimlothian Honour Guard not a match for them. The Maith Ilazgalan coming forward to shore the lineup, and Arthedain don't have enough left in the tank either. So yeah, I think Mirkwood are going to win this. I think they are going to pull this out of the bag. In spite of a very dicey initial situation, being essentially bum rushed by Lothlorien at the start with all of their most elite units, dealing with that and then realising they were about to be pincered between Arthedain and Gondor and having to retreat to essentially this dead end and forming up a last stand. They've done very well, but I mean there are still pikes which are a bit of a problem. Sending those units routing with the catapult could be their saving grace, although some of those catapult crewmen are getting awfully close to being in melee. The Fountain Guard, I mean there is the Arthedain catapult, which that's the other side of the coin. Arthedain could also win this by use of their catapult, as well as their pikes. They have some men-at-arms, but Arthedain needs to be careful here because they haven't sent forward a lot of units at all. The Illuminous Gate Guards are strong and they do have very good morale, but they're isolated here. They're gonna rout quickly without any sort of support. And I can't help but feel as though a lot of these Arthedain units have probably returned from routing once already. Their morale is probably in a very fragile place indeed. Catapult sort of spinning around on the spot. Yeah, there go the Illuminous Gate Guards. Not surprised about that at all. Very much isolated. The Fountain Guard. The Fountain Guard might be locked morale, which is why they've lasted a lot longer. They're certainly the sort of unit you would imagine to be locked morale. The Illuminous Gate Guards. I really can't wait. One of the things I'm most looking forward to about 0.97, to be honest, is the updated Gondorian unit models. They look so much nicer. They look a bit rotund and chunky in 0.96.1, I think, and as they have looked like ever since Vanilla, but the upgraded unit models in 0.97 look so good. I believe it was Cowering Coma that did them. I might be wrong about that, but I think it was. Yeah, the catapult's still just sort of spinning around on the spot. Fountain Guard victory is a distinct possibility. Can the Fountain Guard pull this out? I would be bemused if they did, because Merc would have the potential to just sort of collapse in on them, but they haven't taken it yet. The Nimlothian Honour Guard is shaken. Ooh, one of the artillery pieces is gone. Arthedain coming forward with some Arthedain men-at-arms, perhaps sensing that it's now or never to engage. They need the catapult to do a lot of heavy lifting for them. That's a good start. Because the Palace Guard, there's nothing to match them on the field really. The Nimlothian Honour Guard maybe, but the Nimlothian Honour Guard also routing. Bit of friendly fire there, but worth it to rout that Honour Guard off, because now the Palace Guard, yeah, look at that. Immediately the Arthedain player realises his error, and in trying to retreat from that engagement, he actually caused his own men to rout. The Emendim archers are not going to last in melee either. Arthedain are going to try and shoot Mirkwood to death, which is going to necessitate Mirkwood moving forward, I think. I mean, Mirkwood should move forward. If they charge in, the Arthedain forces are going to break on contact. with the Maith Ilaz Gallant and the Palace Guard, whereas if they sit back here, all they're going to do really is get themselves shot by the catapult and the archers and die. Very limited amount of time left in this battle actually. I wonder if the Arthedain player is going to admit defeat, or the Mirkwood player? Surely not the Mirkwood player. Arsal has put in a lot of work to get to this point. There goes another catapult. There's not a lot of time left at all. Wyndham archers steady. A lot of the Arthedain forces now tired and exhausted. Guards of Osgiliath are actually coming back, although I think the Gondor player just admitted defeat, which is a shame, because if all of those Gondorian units had just come back from routing, a combined effort from Arthedain and Gondor would have defeated Mirkwood here. There would have been a case actually for saying they probably should have gone after one another. That's a very bemusing course of action, that. I think if Mirkwood go on to win this, they can count themselves as being quite fortunate, because Arthedain and Gondor, if they had teamed up, they could have beaten them, and then it would have been between the two human kingdoms. As it is, however, Arthedain is being left to fight this battle alone, and it's a battle they're not going to win. They just don't have the stomach for the fight anymore, which who can blame them? I mean, look at the death that's around here. And Mirkwood victorious. Bit fortunate perhaps that Gondor threw in the towel when they still had a unit of Gondor spears and guards of Osgiliath left. But they had returned from routing, so perhaps there is a case for saying that Mirkwood would have caused them to break as well. But yeah, very well done to Arsal, who played that very well considering the circumstances. Gondor getting a lot of kills as well, doing very nicely against Arthedain. Arthedain and Lothlorien found themselves on the wrong side of their relative engagements. Having a look at what did the damage for Gondor, however, few units getting over 100 kills. Gondor archers, Carandros marksmen, veterans of Osgiliath, so archers primarily as well as the elite units, so Nimlothian Honour Guard, but by far and away the MVPs, as they usually are for Gondor in 0.96.1, the rock in their roster, the Fountain Guard, getting 341 kills in phalanx in that engagement. It was ideal for them. They're up against armoured units as well, which obviously the Fountain Guard with their AP going to very much enjoy that. Gandalf's Retinue Bodyguard doing okay for themselves on a map like this. Athelian Rangers also. You could make an argument for saying that Rangers on this sort of map should be getting more kills, but the archer line of Gondor as a whole did very, very well, so I don't think Zero can have too many complaints. But in the end, Mirkwood were the ones to pull victory out of the hat. So big thank you to... this battle is from Zero's perspective, but it might have been sent to me by Arsal. I can't quite remember, but big thank you to everyone who was involved nonetheless. It obviously helps keep my channel going in busy periods during university. And I hope that this satisfies the craving for a free-for-all, which I have been noticing in the comments recently, and also a bit of Gondor as well. So all around, this should satisfy some of the requests that have been made lately. The next battle that I want to do, I want to do another large-scale siege. If I have time for it over the weekend, I will be recording it. If not, then I will be doing sort of a series of smaller battles up until Thursday next week is sort of the official end date for the project. So from next Friday onwards, I will be much more free to do whatever I please, because I will have a period where I will be on break, which will be very, very nice indeed. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you will join me for whatever is next.